Welcome to TRN Podcast, episode 90.
Great to be here.
Today, we're focusing on some pretty significant recent developments in German overnight money Tagesgeld interest rates.
Yeah, things have been moving surprisingly, haven't they?
They have. And we know our listeners value getting informed quickly and thoroughly, especially when it comes to finance.
And this could actually be a potentially lucrative opportunity right now, worth paying attention to.
Definitely. We've looked at several recent pieces focusing on Tagesgeld and also a bit on fixed-term deposit or Festgeld rates in Germany. And our mission today is really to pull out the most crucial information from these sources.
So you can understand the current landscape and one particularly noteworthy offer that's emerged.
Right. We're not just summarizing. We want to highlight the really relevant points, give you the background.
So you can make informed decisions. That's the goal.
Okay, let's kick things off with what you could call, a surprising twist.
The mega Zinshammer, as one source put it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a bit dramatic. But the news is, Bank of Scotland is now offering new Tagesgeld customers a pretty hefty 3.50% interest.
Wow, okay. That definitely gets your attention.
It really does, especially when you consider the context. Tagesgeld rates in Germany were generally trending downwards, weren't they?
Absolutely. Following the European Central Bank's deposit rate cuts earlier in 2024, you'd expect things to be cooling off.
So this 3.50%, it's quite a break from that trend.
That's fascinating. What's really striking is how it compares. The previous top offer we saw mentioned was what? Consorsbank.
Yeah, Consorsbank at 3.05%. So Bank of Scotland is significantly higher than that.
They're really putting down a marker there. Makes you wonder about the strategy behind it.
Aggressively going for new market share, perhaps. Seems likely.
Could be. But let's get into the specifics, the conditions for this offer, because there are always conditions.
Always. Okay, so crucially, this 3.50% applies only to new customers.
And how are they defining new?
It means anyone who hasn't had a Tagesgeld account with Bank of Scotland in the last 6 months.
Got it. Standard definition, pretty much. And how long does this rate last?
It's for the first 2 months after opening the account.
Okay, a typical promotional period.
Exactly. And it applies to balances up to 500,000 euros.
$500,000. That's quite a high ceiling for a promotional rate.
It is. After those first 2 months, the rate drops to their standard variable interest rate.
Which is currently?
Currently 1.75%.
Okay, 1.75. We'll come back to how that compares later, I imagine.
We will. And important dates. The offer has been available since April 8th.
And the deadline. When do you need to open the account by?
You need to get the account open by April 16th to lock in that 3.50% for the initial 2 months.
Right, so there's a bit of urgency there if you're interested.
Definitely a limited window. Now, what about security? Always a key question.
Standard protection applies.
Yes, it falls under the German deposit protection scheme, so funds are protected up to 100,000 euros per person.
Good. And fees. Any account management fees to worry about?
Apparently not. The sources indicate no account management fees, which is always welcome.
Okay, so attractive conditions overall, especially for new customers looking for a short-term boost.
For sure. And to really gauge how attractive it is, let's compare it quickly to some other major German direct banks.
Yeah, how does it stack up against, say, ING or Comdirect?
Well, ING's regular rate is currently mentioned as just 1.00%.
Ooh.
And Comdirect is even lower at only 0.75%.
Wow, big difference there compared to the Bank of Scotland's promo rate.
Huge difference. Then there's DKB offering 1.5%.
But wasn't there a catch with DKB?
Yes, apparently that rate is only for customers who also have their Girokonto, their current account, with DKB.
Right, so it's tied to another product.
Exactly. So the Bank of Scotland offer really does stand out for new money right now.
What's also quite interesting, though, is that even their standard variable rate, the 1.75%, even that is currently higher than the regular rates at ING and Comdirect.
That's a good point. So even after the 2-month promo, it's still competitive against some big names currently.
Currently, yes. But it's crucial to remember that 1.75% is variable.
Absolutely. It could change. Banks can adjust those standard rates based on market conditions, ECB moves, whatever.
So no guarantees it stays at 1.75% long term.
None at all. Okay, so let's pivot to the listener. Why does this matter to you listening right now?
Well, the most obvious reason is the chance for a significantly higher return on easily accessible funds, at least in the short term.
Right. We're talking about Tagesgeld overnight money. It's liquid.
Exactly. And especially if you're maybe feeling a bit cautious about, say, volatile stock markets right now, this could be an attractive place to park some cash safely while still earning a decent return. A much better return than 0.75 or 1%.
For those first 2 months, definitely. But again, that time limit is key.
Yes, the 3.5% is temporary. Need to act reasonably quickly if this fits your plans.
Yeah.
The deadline is April 16th.
It really is like a sudden bright spot in what seemed like a dimmer interest rate picture.
It is.
Right?
And interestingly, one of the sources also briefly touched upon fixed-term deposits, Festgeld.
Oh, yeah. What did it say?
Just a quick mention that, surprisingly, some Festgeld rates seem to be rising again, too.
Huh. That is interesting. Counterintuitive, almost.
Yeah. So that could be another avenue for potentially even higher returns, but obviously...
The lose flexibility.
Exactly. You're locking your money away for a fixed period, much less flexible than Tagesgeld.
Maybe something we can explore another time.
Agreed. Let's stick to the Tagesgeld offer for now.
Okay, so let's just reiterate the important considerations, the caveats.
Number 1, the 3.50% is promotional, just for 2 months.
Number 2, the standard rate afterwards, 1.75%, is variable. It can change.
And number 3, you have to qualify as a new customer, no account in the last 6 months.
Right. Those are the key things to keep in mind.
So let's try and sum up the main takeaway then.
Go for it.
This remarkably high Tagesgeld offer from the Bank of Scotland, the 3.50% for new customers, it really presents a compelling opportunity in the current German interest rate environment.
But, and it's a big but, you absolutely have to factor in the limited time frame for that rate, just 2 months, and the other conditions we mentioned.
Eligibility, the variable rate afterwards, the application deadline of April 16th.
So the question for you, the listener, is, does this short-term offer with its attractive rate align with your current financial goals?
Especially if you're thinking about short-term savings or just finding a safe haven for some funds for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm. Is it worth the effort of opening a new account for that 2-month boost?
That's the calculation everyone needs to make for themselves.
And maybe one final thought to leave people with, something that goes beyond this specific deal.
Okay.
Well, this aggressive move by one bank, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What does it signal about potential shifts in the broader German savings market?
That's a good point. Could it spark more competition? Will other banks react?
Exactly. Could we see other unexpected opportunities pop up for informed savers, like our listeners?
It definitely adds an interesting dynamic. It shows things aren't maybe as predictable as they seemed after the ECB cuts.
Something to keep an eye on, for sure. How will other banks position themselves now?
Indeed. It'll be fascinating to watch.